Jason Statham's knuckles whitened around the barbell, but it wasn't from exhaustion. Far from it. The room quivered with low hip-hop bass lines and whirring treadmills, yet a sudden hush spread in the corner of the gym where he stood. It was the hush right before confrontation, that tense air thick with questions. Who does this trainer think he is? And why is he messing with Jason Statham? It had started as innocently as a morning workout could. Jason liked to keep his routine private, slipping into an unassuming training center in the outskirts of London. The place wasn't exactly run down, but its battered boxing bags, scuffed benches, and flickering overhead lights betrayed its gritty, no-frills identity. There was something almost romantic about it. The hum of old air vents, the faint reek of stale sweat, and the dog-eared posters on the walls displaying local boxing heroes. For Jason, this place felt real. No flashy equipment, no paparazzi. Just iron, leather, and the occasional neighbor who recognized him but gave him space. He craved that sense of normalcy. In this gym, you earned respect through your work ethic, not your star power. He'd finished warming up with a light run on the treadmill in the corner, away from prying eyes. Next came a set of deadlifts. At first, no one said a word to him. A few curious glances, nothing major. The man checking in memberships at the front desk had done a double-take when he walked in, but graciously pretended not to see the Hollywood titan standing before him. In a place where rugged discipline trumped fandom, it was the perfect atmosphere for an unbothered session. But then he appeared, the new trainer, fresh-faced and reeking of misplaced arrogance. He was about 6 feet tall, sporting sculpted arms and a chest that flexed beneath a black t-shirt emblazoned with the gym's cracked logo. Some might call him handsome, but the perpetual sneer on his face canceled out whatever charm he might have possessed. Unaware of or unconcerned about who Jason was, the trainer strutted over with the airs of an alpha wolf. "Hey, buddy," the trainer said, crossing his arms over his chest. "You realize the barbell rack is for those who actually lift heavy, right?" Jason, kneeling on the floor to tighten his shoelaces, paused. It was the condescending, drawn-out sarcasm in the trainer's voice that caught him off guard. Slowly, he stood and turned. "Sorry, mate. Did you need it?" The trainer's sneer stretched wider. "I'm just thinking," he replied, stepping closer. "You might want to start with the machines, or maybe the smaller dumbbells until you're sure you won't throw out your back. This bar weighs almost as much as you." A flicker of exasperation crossed Jason's features. He wasn't wearing anything that screamed action star, an old sweatshirt and track pants. No entourage, no obvious reason for the trainer to hold his tongue or show deference. But the unwavering confidence in Jason's posture should have been a clue. Those nearby started paying more attention, pulling the buds out of their ears and stalling their own sets. The tension was becoming tangible. Nobody liked that particular trainer. His name was Reese. He'd arrived from a more upscale fitness franchise, rumored to have run into some trouble there. Probably got fired for his attitude. Some whispered. That same attitude, apparently, had found a new home in this scrappy gym. Jason gently rested the barbell on the rack, then turned around fully to face Reese. "You come over to help people out, or just a mouth off?" he asked evenly. Reese let out a mocking half-laugh. "Look, man, if you're going to do deadlifts, at least let me show you how to do them properly. Proper form is everything. I'd hate for you to injure yourself." The notion that Jason Statham, a man whose day job involved physically demanding stunts, would need a basic tutorial on form was laughable. But Jason didn't want to cause a scene. "I appreciate the concern," he said, voice calm. "I've been doing this for a while, though." Reese sniffed. "You'd be surprised how many think they've got the form down until they slip a disc." Jason ran a hand over his buzzed hair and sighed inwardly. Part of him wanted to let it go. Maybe the trainer had no idea who he was talking to. But still, this is quite something. Silently, the crowd edged closer. They knew this local boxing gym's code. No nonsense, no big egos. Just keep your head down and push your limits. Jason had always fit that ethos perfectly whenever he visited. Reese, on the other hand, seemed to have a chip the size of a barbell plate on his shoulder. Reese stepped behind Jason, then boldly grabbed him around the waist, repositioning him as though he were a clueless beginner. Shoulders back. Lower spine neutral. Reese barked. Come on, lift with your legs. Let's see what you got. Nobody dared to speak. The place was so quiet that the whir of the elliptical machines sounded like jet engines. Jason's nostrils flared. The audacity was astounding. He pictured 100 different ways he could respond. Possibly a witty retort or even a demonstration of near-superhuman technique that would put this trainer to shame. But maybe, just maybe, he'd play along for a second. The weight at his feet was moderate, nothing that challenged him. He exhaled and hoisted it up with meticulous form that would make any professional trainer proud. Reese observed, but kept scowling as though something was off. Not bad, he said begrudgingly, for a beginner. Suddenly, the metal clang of another bar hitting the rack echoed across the gym, marking the start of a moment that would ripple through the place. Because in that instant, Jason decided this wasn't just about him. It was about setting a tone. Nobody deserved to be treated like that. With lethal quiet, Jason racked the barbell, stepped away, and locked eyes with Reese. There was no bravado in Jason's stare, just an unwavering calm. Everyone was watching, waiting, practically holding their breath to see what he'd do. The tension was thick as tar. Then Jason said 3 words, softly, each deliberate syllable hinting at a bigger story. We should spar. Those 3 words landed in the gym like a boxer's glove, connecting with a perfectly aimed punch. We should spar. They weren't loud or vicious, yet they rang with a quiet finality that made the hair on the back of people's necks stand up. Reese's lips curled into a grin. He didn't see the trap. Oh, you want to get your face rearranged? He said, cracking his knuckles like a movie thug. Sure thing, tough guy. Truthfully, a few curious onlookers shivered. They'd seen Jason around, and though he never bragged about his background, word traveled fast that he'd done serious martial arts training for years, not to mention the film stunts he performed. The older boxing coach, Enzo, stood near the free weights, arms crossed, silently observing. Even he looked on with mild amusement, fully aware Reese was stepping on a shaky ground. Rather than feed Reese's arrogance with more talk, Jason simply picked up his towel and walked toward the gym's boxing ring, a battered space with once white ropes that had turned gray from decades of sweat and chalk. Rust winked from the metal corners, giving the ring a gritty authenticity. Reese followed, still brimming with confidence, practically daring Jason to see him as anything but unstoppable. This is going to be quick, the trainer said with a swagger. I hope you brought a mouthguard. Jason hopped over the ropes lightly, towel thrown over his shoulder, and shot Reese a bemused look. Got a spare mouthguard around, Enzo? He asked politely. Enzo's stony face cracked into a slight grin. You know where they are, Jason? Over by the shelves. While Jason went to fetch the protective gear, Reese seized the moment to stir up the crowd. Anyone want to place bets? He joked, flexing his arms at a couple of the regulars who had begun gathering around. 5 minutes with me, and you'll see how an actual pro trains. The onlookers exchanged glances. Most gave uneasy shrugs. A wiry boxer in the corner muttered, No thanks, mate. I value my money. Pulling the mouthguard onto his teeth, Jason stepped back into the ring. He looked the trainer up and down once, as if reading every nuance of Reese's stance. How he distributed his weight, how his shoulders tensed, how his feet kept shifting. This silent observation seemed to unnerve Reese, who responded by launching into a quick set of shadow punches at the air, presumably to intimidate. All right, Jason said quietly, sliding the mouthguard in and tapping his gloves together. The tension was suffocating. Someone stopped the treadmill to watch. Another slowed down their squats. Even the music overhead seemed to fade. The first 3 seconds were a blur. Reese tried to get the upper hand with a quick jab to Jason's midsection, but Jason pivoted, barely moving from his spot, letting the punch glance off his left forearm. A hush spread. Reese tried a combination, left jab, right hook. Jason slipped out of the way, footwork immaculate, as though he predicted every strike. The watchers around the ring were silent, eyes locked on the fluid display. This was not the typical brawl they'd witnessed at the local bar on a Saturday night. This was precision, grace, a measured approach that only came from a lifetime of training. Reese was forced to step back, chest heaving. He hadn't expected Jason to be this good. Undeterred, he lunged again, feinting a jab this time to try and land a sly uppercut. But Jason responded like a steel trap, blocking the blow and delivering a gentle, but unmistakably effective, counterpunch to Reese's shoulder. Not a knockout punch, just a reminder that it was there, that it was real. Reese staggered back, face contorting in annoyance. "Stop holding back," he spat through his mouthguard, his cheeks flushing red as a beet. Jason raised an eyebrow. The trainer's pride was still fueling him, overshadowing any humility. He's going to hurt himself at this rate, Jason thought. A swirl of conflicting emotions flitted through him. Sure, he was annoyed at the disrespect, but he didn't relish humiliating the man publicly. But the crowd was enthralled, leaning on the ropes, expecting a big finish, an exclamation point to this confrontation. The trainer had drawn first blood with his arrogance. After all, all right, Jason sighed, deciding that maybe a slight demonstration was necessary to calm the braggart. "If you insist." Reese charged forward with a furious flurry. He must have thrown a half-dozen punches in less than 5 seconds, some aimed at Jason's chest, others at his head. The onlookers thought Jason might dodge them with his typical grace, but instead he did something unexpected. He deflected the first two, took a half-step sideways, and in a swift, clean motion, locked Reese's arm and guided him downward into a takedown that ended with Reese on his knees. It happened so fast that even Enzo had to blink twice. A gasp rushed through the spectators. Reese groaned, struggling in the hold, sweat now beading on his forehead. Jason eased the pressure but didn't let go. "You sure you want me to go all out?" he asked. The trainer's bravado crumbled for a moment, but his ego refused to surrender. He tried to yank free. Jason let him go voluntarily, stepping back, giving the man space to stand up again. Pride stung. Reese rubbed his arm and scrambled to his feet. Suddenly, the gym door chimed, the corner bell that signaled someone entering. But no one tore their eyes away from the ring. This was too gripping. "Well," Jason pressed gently, not a drop of arrogance in his tone. "Do you want to continue? Or are we done here?" Reese's breath came in quick spurts. He saw the onlookers, some half-smiling, some wide-eyed in awe of Jason's skill. The new arrival near the door? Possibly another gym member pausing in confusion at the spectacle. Reese spat out his mouthguard. I need a minute," he muttered, huffing as he turned away to sink into the corner. The entire ring exhaled a sigh of relief, with many quiet murmurs passing around. One or two people might have even considered clapping, but the tension was still too thick. Jason said nothing, allowing Reese to save face in front of the crowd. He slid off his own gloves and hopped out of the ring, collecting his towel from the side. Conversations buzzed, but nobody confronted him with questions. They recognized what happened for what it was, a thorough schooling in humility delivered with surgical politeness. Yet the confrontation was far from over. Reese, for all his bravado, couldn't possibly let this moment go. His job as a trainer, his reputation, was on the line. If he slunk away now, he'd never regain authority in this place. The simmering resentment in his eyes promised retaliation. As Jason wiped his forehead, he felt a pair of intense eyes on him. Glancing over, he caught Reese glaring. Hadn't the man learned something from that quick scuffle? Possibly not. That was the trouble with people who saw humility as weakness. They missed the bigger picture. So, as the crowd dispersed back to their workouts, stealing fascinated glances at him, Jason braced himself. He suspected that the trainer's next move wouldn't be so direct. Sometimes, the most dangerous type of confrontation was the one hidden behind forced smiles and cunning words. Still, a measured calm radiated from Jason's core. If Reese wanted to play mind games, fine. Jason had navigated more cunning adversaries, on screen and off. He was no stranger to adversity, whether it came from a stunt gone wrong or from a misguided bully. Little did Jason know that the next few days at the gym would escalate into a series of challenges, humiliations, and surprising turns, each forcing him to peel back another layer of patience, principle, and personal code. For better or worse, Reese was about to discover there's a fine line between commanding respect and destroying your own dignity. And just as importantly, everyone else in that unassuming old gym was about to witness the truth. Behind that tough exterior, Jason Statham had more to teach them about heart, resilience, and self-control than any trainer certificate could ever provide. The day after the sparring session, the gym buzzed with quiet excitement. Word spread about the scuffle between Jason Statham and the arrogant new trainer. While no official victor had been declared, anyone who witnessed it knew the truth. Jason had schooled Reese without breaking a sweat. Still, on this late afternoon, Jason strolled in as if nothing had happened. No puffed-up pride, no swagger, just the same unassuming, steady gait. He nodded greetings to a few folks he recognized: a retired ex-boxer with a bandaged wrist, a young upstart with big dreams but a low bank balance, a single mother who found therapy in punching heavy bags. Jason made a point to connect with them all, sharing quiet words of encouragement. He moved to a corner mat to stretch when a timid man, wearing baggy tracksuit pants, approached him. "Hey, mate," the man said hesitantly. "Could you, help me with my jab technique?" Jason smiled. Sure. This, for Jason, was the real joy of training. Not the bravado or posturing, but the chance to pass along the knowledge he'd acquired over decades of martial arts practice. While guiding the man's posture and footwork, Jason caught a glimpse of Reese on the other side of the gym, leaning against a treadmill, arms crossed. Reese stared with narrowed eyes. When the man Jason was helping noticed Reese's stare, he nervously fumbled the motion. Jason placed a steadying hand on the man's shoulder. "Ignore him," he whispered. "Focus on your stance and the target. Everything else is just background noise." The man nodded, exhaling slowly, and delivered a smooth jab at the punching pad Jason held up. They worked like that for 10 minutes, ignoring the silent hostility radiating from across the room. Then, at a moment Jason least expected, Reese sauntered over, forcibly inserting himself into the mini-training session. "Everything all right?" Reese asked, voice slick with condescension. He glanced at the timid man, then turned to Jason. "We wouldn't want to be giving out bad advice, would we?" Jason's protege froze, looking uncertainly between them. Before Jason could respond, Reese snatched the focus pad from Jason's hand. "Show me your jab," he ordered the man, that same sneer creeping onto his face. Struggling with nerves, the man attempted the punch. Reese made a big show of wincing as though he'd been slapped by a feather. "Come on, put some power into it," he barked, tossing a glare at Jason as if to say, "This is what you've been teaching him?" The man tried again, but his shoulders tensed, and he threw an awkward punch that didn't connect properly. Reese swatted his glove away. "Pathetic," he snapped. "It's like you're not even trying." Jason stepped forward, a quiet fury brimming under his calm exterior. He placed a gentle hand on the man's wrist, lowering it. "That's enough for now," he told him, ignoring Reese. "Take a water break, keep your mind clear, and we'll come back to it." The man nodded, relief in his eyes. He set his gloves down and retreated, grateful to escape Reese's belittling. Reese's focus darted to Jason, his posture stiff. "You think you can waltz in here and pretend to be a trainer? Taking clients without paying your dues?" Jason kept his voice low, aware of curious onlookers. "I'm just helping a friend, mate. Didn't realize we had to check with you first." Reese scoffed. "Don't play innocent. This is my gym to train people. You want to play coach? You better talk to the owners." At this, an older man with a salt and pepper mustache poked his head out from an office in the back. It was Clarence, the gym's manager. He cleared his throat. "Everyone is welcome to share knowledge, Reese. That's what we do here. Don't make it more complicated than it is." Jason nodded in appreciation, but Reese wasn't done. "Fine," he said dismissively. "But when that guy throws out his shoulder from your advice, don't come crying to me." Instead of rising to the bait, Jason simply shrugged and moved to the heavy bag. He tightened his wraps and started working through a series of methodical strikes. The repetitive thud, thud, thud of fist meeting vinyl seemed to calm the tension in the air. But Reese hovered, arms crossed, that scowl never leaving his face. It wasn't enough for him to scorn Jason with words. He needed something bigger, something more humiliating. He needed to prove that his authority as the gym trainer was untouchable. A sudden glint of mischief sparked in Reese's eyes. He turned and marched across the room to the squat rack, where a hulking barbell loaded with heavy plates rested. Reese let out a loud grunt, calling attention to himself as he hoisted the weight onto his broad shoulders. He proceeded to do slow, deliberate squats, each one deeper than the last. A nearby lifter muttered to Jason, pausing mid-lap pull. He's heavier on that bar than usual. Jason continued his striking drills, but flicked a glance over at Reese. The trainer was definitely showing off, the kind of show that teetered on the edge of safety. If the bar were too heavy or his form off, he could injure himself. Yet Reese kept going, face contorted in determined arrogance, occasionally letting out an overly theatrical groan. When he finished, the clang of the bar returning to the rack reverberated through the gym. Reese straightened up, panting, then cast a challenging stare in Jason's direction. He didn't need to say a word for everyone to see the subtext. Beat that. Jason shook his head slightly and focused on the heavy bag. He'd done enough posturing on film sets. He had nothing to prove to a bully. But Reese was unsatisfied. He wanted a showdown. He wanted the entire gym to see Jason's pride crack. So Reese walked over again, his footsteps echoing on the worn rubber flooring. "Come on, hot shot," he said in a loud voice that cut through the music. "Let's see if your legs are as strong as your mouth." Jason paused, exhaled, and faced him. "I don't need to do that." Reese glanced at the ring, then at the squat rack, searching for the next big spectacle. He was about to say something else when Clarence's voice boomed from behind. "Reese, if you've got time to challenge people, you've got time to help Emily with her training plan." Reese snapped his gaze to where Clarence pointed, a young woman in a corner, scanning a chart of exercises with mild confusion. "She's new. Show her around," Clarence insisted. For a moment, it seemed Reese would defy the manager. Then, rational sense prevailed. With a final glare in Jason's direction, he marched off toward Emily, leaving Jason to resume his workout. But as Jason turned back to the bag, his heart still pounded with adrenaline. He was no stranger to conflict, but the bitterness in Reese's eyes worried him. This was more than just petty ego. There was an undercurrent of something vengeful, like a storm gathering in the distance. Pushing the thought away, Jason returned to his strikes, each careful blow channeling the tension in his body. He had no intention of turning this humble gym into a battleground. But if Reese insisted, Jason resolved he'd find a solution that didn't involve physically beating the man into submission. There had to be a better way, a sharper approach that would not just win the fight, but transform it into something positive for everyone involved, especially the gym members caught in the crossfire. What Jason didn't know was that Reese's next move wouldn't be a direct confrontation. It would be stealthier, more cunning. And it would push Jason to question not just his patience, but his personal code of honor in ways he never had before. The next week rolled in quietly, like a cat on the prowl, barely giving any indication of what was about to unfold. Jason maintained his usual routine, blending in with the regulars, politely sidestepping any further showdowns with Reese. Whenever they crossed paths, Reese either sneered and walked away or shot him a sarcastic remark about celebrity workouts. One afternoon, while Jason was finishing a series of speed bag drills, a small commotion drew his attention. In the center of the gym, a teenage boy lay sprawled on the floor near the treadmill, clutching his ankle and grimacing in pain. A couple of bystanders rushed over, but no one seemed quite sure what to do. Jason sprinted over, dropping to one knee. "Easy, easy," he soothed, gently checking the boy's ankle. "What happened?" "He just fell," said the wide-eyed older woman next to him. "Tripped on something, I think." The boy winced as Jason carefully tested the ankle's movement. "I was running," he hissed through clenched teeth, and then the treadmill it jerked. Jason frowned. The gym's equipment might have been old, but it was usually well-maintained. He glanced at the belt on the treadmill. It was half-torn and sagging. That was new. Before he could investigate further, Reese arrived on the scene, barking orders to give the kid some space. Then, in a tone far more concerned than usual, he kneeled beside Jason. "You all right, mate? Let's get you up carefully." Jason noticed how Reese angled himself in front of the onlookers, as if positioning himself as the heroic trainer. Still, that was less important than ensuring the boy received proper care. They helped him to a nearby bench, where Jason propped the boy's leg up and applied a cold pack from the office fridge. Reese shook his head gravely, gazing at the treadmill. That belt looks trashed. Someone must have messed with it. Jason's eyes sharpened. Messed with it? You think it wasn't just wear and tear? Reese shrugged, his voice rising enough for people to hear. This gym has been around a long time, but the staff always keeps the machines in good shape. Belt tears like that don't just happen overnight. Could be sabotage, you know? A ripple of nervous chatter spread among the members. Sabotage? Who would do such a thing and why? Word traveled fast, and by the next day, rumors were swirling like a whirlwind. Some insisted the treadmill belt was simply old and gave out. Others whispered that perhaps Jason had something to do with it, though the logic behind such an accusation was flimsy at best. After all, why would Jason sabotage equipment he used himself? But Reese didn't let the rumor fade. During training sessions, he'd casually mention the treadmill incident in ways that cast suspicion. He never accused Jason outright, but he dropped enough hints. Funny how it happened right after a big Hollywood star starts messing around here. Maybe he wanted an upgrade or something. Jason caught wind of this nonsense through hushed conversations. It angered him more than he cared to admit. He disliked confrontation, but this was crossing a line, putting people's safety at risk to smear his name. He decided to confront Reese directly. Late that evening, Jason found Reese alone in the back office, rummaging through the first aid kit. The hum of the overhead light gave the cramped space a sinister buzz. "Reese," Jason said calmly. The trainer didn't bother looking up. "What do you want?" Jason took a breath, fighting to keep his voice level. "I don't appreciate the rumors you're spreading about me. The treadmill belt was likely old. Blaming me for sabotage is ridiculous." Reese slammed the first aid kit shut, spinning around. "Me? Spreading rumors? You got proof?" Jason's jaw tightened. "People are talking. They're hearing it from you. I wanted to stop." A smug grin curved Reese's lips. "And if it doesn't?" For a heartbeat, Jason entertained the idea of forcibly teaching Reese another lesson in the ring. But something in Reese's eyes looked twisted, as if he wanted Jason to lose his temper. Instead, Jason took a step back, voice steady. "We both know you're out of line. This isn't just about you and me anymore. It's about the people here who rely on this gym. Don't drag them into some petty feud." Reese shrugged lazily. "Maybe I'm just concerned about the safety of the members. And maybe you don't belong here." Jason's fists clenched, but he forced himself to remain calm. Without another word, he turned and walked away. It was pointless trying to reason with a man who was determined to pick a fight. That night, Jason couldn't shake the suspicion gnawing at him. He recalled how the treadmill belt had looked cut, not just worn out. Then there were the quiet hushes and sideways glances whenever Reese walked by. Something ugly was brewing beneath the surface, and Jason worried it wouldn't end with a few rumors. Sure enough, over the next few days, more small accidents occurred. A misaligned barbell clipped someone's shoulder mid-bench press. A boxing glove found itself suspiciously waterlogged. Nothing too serious, but enough to fuel the narrative that the gym was unsafe. And each time, Reese made sure people knew about the incident, fueling speculation that someone, maybe even a certain celebrity, was messing with the facilities. Tired of the negativity, Jason approached Clarence, the gym manager. He found the older man slumped at his desk, piles of bills and repair invoices scattered around. Clarence looked up, weary. "Jason, this place is going under if we don't fix our reputation. Between the treadmill fiasco and these other freak mishaps, folks are canceling memberships." Jason lowered his gaze, troubled. "Is there anything I can do to help?" Clarence tapped a pen nervously. "We need to prove this place is still safe. Maybe host an open house, a demonstration, something to show we're serious about fitness and community. But I don't have the time or staff." Jason considered the idea. "We could do a charity exhibition. Me and maybe a couple of local fighters. Show some real skill, raise funds for repairs, and invite the public to see the gym in action." Clarence's eyes lit up, if only briefly. "That might work. It'd help if you're willing to put your name out there, draw a crowd. Jason nodded, ignoring the tightness in his stomach. He could already imagine Reese's reaction. He'd hate the idea of Jason stealing the spotlight. But if it saved the gym, it was worth it. "Let's do it," Jason said, a determination taking root in his voice. As he left Clarence's office, Jason glimpsed Reese leaning against a wall, arms crossed, overhearing just enough to guess the plan. A flicker of something akin to panic fluttered across Reese's face before it turned into that sneering mask again. They locked eyes, and Jason felt a sense of inevitability, as though a final confrontation was on the horizon. The difference was, Jason wasn't simply out to settle a personal score anymore. He was determined to save this place, these people, from the poison Reese was sowing. And if that meant stepping into the ring one more time, or finding another way to expose Reese's schemes, then so be it. The night of the charity exhibition arrived amid a swirl of excitement and apprehension. Clarence had managed to rustle up a small but spirited crowd. Local boxers, martial artists, curious neighbors, even a few dedicated fans who caught wind of Jason Statham's involvement. The gym looked almost festive. A banner reading Community Fight Night hung crookedly above the ring, and folding chairs circled the ropes. Jason stood in a cramped side hallway, twisting the knobs on his boxing gloves to ensure a snug fit. A dull roar of chatter seeped through the walls, punctuated by intermittent applause from earlier demonstrations. They'd had a few youth matches, an amateur showcase, and even a quick talk on fitness and nutrition from the older boxing coach, Enzo. The atmosphere should have been electric. It was electric, except for one gnawing concern. Reese had been suspiciously quiet all week. Yes, he'd rolled his eyes at every mention of Jason's name, but he hadn't interfered directly. It felt like the hush before a thunderstorm. As Jason made his way toward the ring, phone cameras flashed, and murmured excitement rippled across the spectators. He offered a humble wave and stepped through the ropes. Clarence grabbed a mic and made a brief introduction, lauding Jason's dedication to the gym's revival. A wave of applause rattled the rafters. Jason inclined his head modestly. After a quick demonstration of pad work with Enzo, showing off crisp, powerful strikes, Jason stepped aside to let another local fighter take the spotlight. The event was designed to share knowledge and highlight the gym's positive energy. For a moment, it seemed to be working. People were smiling, cheering, leaving behind the negativity of the past few weeks, until a sharp voice cut through the noise. Wait, hold up." Reese had climbed into the ring, wearing a sleeveless hoodie and a menacing glare. He snatched the mic from Clarence with a dramatic flourish. The crowd hushed, tension spiking. "Listen up," Reese boomed. "I got something to say. We've all seen Jason here prancing around, playing hero while this gym nearly falls apart." Some of the audience started murmuring, clearly taken aback. Jason felt an icy calm settle over him. He knew something like this was coming. Reese gestured at the scuffed walls, the battered equipment. "We're being told everything that went wrong was just an accident or random sabotage. But let's be real. Who stands to gain from stepping in to save the gym? Could be the big Hollywood star who wants to look like a knight in shining armor." A hush fell. Jason could see a few uncertain faces in the crowd. He also caught Clarence's dismayed expression, lips parted as if struggling to find words. Reese pressed on, each syllable dripping with accusation. "I've worked in top-tier gyms. Accidents like these don't happen unless someone orchestrates them. Now, I'm not pointing fingers," he paused, letting the implication hang, "but I do think it's awfully convenient that Jason rides in like some hero at the exact moment the place is on the brink." An uneasy murmur ran through the crowd. Jason walked forward, calmly reaching for the mic. "Reese, that's enough. People are here tonight for a positive event." Reese jerked the mic away. "No, you listen. If you really want to help this place, prove your sincerity." He shot Jason a venomous grin. "Let's settle this in front of everyone. A one-round exhibition match. Me and you right now. If you win, I'll leave the gym. If I win, you stay out of people's training for good." A wave of gasps spread among the audience. This was a high-stakes challenge. Jason frowned, scanning the crowd. The invitation wasn't just about besting Reese. It was about clearing his own name from the swirling suspicion. Clarence grabbed the mic back. Now, wait a second. This is not the plan. We have a schedule, demonstrations, and... But the crowd was already abuzz. The drama was too tantalizing. Some folks egged on, chanting fight, fight, fight. Others looked on with worry. Even Enzo, who had known Jason a long time, gave him a curt nod. If you don't settle this, these rumors will never die. Jason took a breath and locked eyes with Reese. Then he spoke, voice firm, fine. One round. The second someone's at a disadvantage, we stop. This stays an exhibition, not a grudge match. Reese smiled, tossing aside his hoodie and adjusting his gloves. The ring cleared, leaving only the two men, a referee who stepped up from the sidelines, and a swirl of onlookers pressing closer. The bell rang. Reese lunged like a cornered animal, fists flying. Jason deftly blocked and weaved, ignoring the roars of the crowd. He knew Reese's pride would push him to come out swinging, like a bull seeing red. Reese's strikes were furious but reckless. Jason evaded with measured footwork, letting Reese tire himself out. The crowd seemed dazzled at first by Reese's aggression, but as the seconds ticked, it became clear Reese was burning through his stamina quickly. Then Jason spotted his opening. He stepped in with a rapid combination, 1, 2, 3. Each blow found its mark on Reese's torso, pushing him back. The crowd roared. Reese staggered, eyes wide with shock. But in a desperate bid, Reese reached out, trying to wrap Jason in a clinch. Their arms tangled, feet slipping on the mat. Reese twisted, hooking a leg behind Jason's knee. Jason lost balance, hitting the canvas with a jarring thud. Gasps and cheers erupted in equal measure. Toppled though he was, Jason kept his wits. As Reese tried to capitalize, Jason braced an arm against Reese's torso and rolled him, flipping him onto his back. In an instant, Jason had pinned him, a forearm across Reese's chest. Reese thrashed, but Jason used just enough leverage to hold him. Stop, Jason panted. We don't have to do this. But Reese struggled, cursing under his breath. The ref stepped in, counting. By the time the man reached 3, the outcome was undeniable. Reese had lost. He was pinned, outmaneuvered, outclassed. The crowd erupted in cheers, applause, whistles. Some seemed genuinely thrilled to see the bully bested. Others just marveled at the spectacle. Jason rolled away, breathing hard, and rose to his feet. Reese remained on his back, stunned into silence. That hush returned. Everyone watched Jason, waiting for what he'd do next. He could gloat, humiliate Reese further, demand he leave forever. Instead, Jason reached out a hand to help Reese up. Reese stared at it, anger and humiliation warring on his face. Slowly, he grasped it, allowing Jason to pull him upright. They stood there for a moment, panting, gloves pressed against their knees. You're better than I thought, Jason said, voice hoarse. We could use your help if you focused on actually helping people, not tearing them down. Reese's breath hitched, eyes flicking around at the crowd. Every face was on him, waiting. Slowly, the tension in his shoulders deflated. He removed his gloves, letting them drop to the mat. I'm sorry, he muttered, the words nearly lost in the post-fight din. Jason reached out and gave Reese's shoulder a firm squeeze, a subtle sign of acceptance. Applause thundered through the gym as the ref raised Jason's hand in a gesture of victory. But the bigger victory, the one that truly mattered, was the hush that settled over Reese's hostility. In the days that followed, the sabotage rumors fizzled. It turned out Reese had indeed tampered with a few pieces of equipment, an ugly attempt to drive membership down, hoping the gym would close so he could purchase it on the cheap from a financially stressed Clarence. But exposed by the crowd's watchful eye and Jason's unstoppable determination, Reese had nowhere left to hide. He made his apologies to Clarence and offered to pay for any damage he'd caused. News of the fight and Jason's involvement even attracted a surge of new members, curious to train at the place where Jason Statham had faced down a rogue trainer. With those memberships came funds for repairs and a renewed sense of community. And on one rainy afternoon, Jason found Reese quietly organizing dumbbells by the weight rack. When Reese noticed Jason, he paused, fidgeting with a pair of 15-pounders. Look, Reese said, meeting Jason's eyes. Thanks for not kicking me out. I messed up big time. Jason nodded. We all make mistakes. The important part is what you do next. Reese looked down, clear his throat. I'm going to do better. If you want help with any training sessions, I'm around. Jason cracked a faint smile. Deal. In that moment, the gym's weathered walls seemed to glow with a renewed sense of possibility. The ring was still battered, the floors still scuffed, but the bitterness had been swept out. People came to train and to heal, and now there was a tangible camaraderie thriving under the buzz of the old overhead lights. And so ended the chapter of a rude trainer mocking Jason Statham, only to be met with a response that left everyone speechless. Not just a display of skill, but a demonstration of grace. In the end, that proved more powerful than any punch or roundhouse kick, forging unity out of division and setting an example for everyone who ever stepped through those battered doors in search of something more than just muscle. The next time Jason walked into that humble gym, no one cowered before him, nor did anyone puff out their chest to challenge him. They simply greeted him as one of their own, a man who, despite his star status, knew the value of respect, humility, and helping people get back on their feet. In a place where battered equipment spoke of resilience and second chances, he'd found a tribe that appreciated him for who he truly was. A fighter, yes, but one with a heart that refused to let pride and pettiness overshadow what truly mattered. The end.